This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello everybody and welcome on your very special sunset safari here in South Africa. It is going to be sunset, and a special welcome to our school kids from Fairfield, Newcastle, I've forgotten the third one, Sussex Technical. Today, it's wonderful to have you all with us, aged 6 to 9 I believe you are. My name is James and you can ask any questions you like. All you need to do is ask them of your teacher. He or she will ask me and I will then tell you the answer. Do you want to see some lions? I want to see some lions. There they are. The world's most magnificent cat in all his glory. Watch out for the bushes. Everyone duck down. Now for the next little while we're going to be travelling around here, hopefully finding some very interesting creatures, and the first one is this big lion over here. Look at him. Isn't he magnificent? Is that alright, David? That's a male lion with the big mane, with the big beard. And a female lion as well. He's got an itchy ear. Hello, Lennox. Lennox, lions don't live very long, you know. You guys are between 6 and 8 years old, and if you were a 6 to 8 year old lion, well, you'd be pretty much how old this guy is. He's probably just under 6. He's maybe about 5. So he's younger than all of you, if you can believe it, but he weighs about 400 pounds, and it's unlikely that he's going to get much older than 12 years old. 10 to 12 years or so is the average, which means that's kind of normal. And if he's lucky, he'll get to about 15 years. So they don't live for very long, these lions. And the females maybe a year or two longer. The males have a bit of a rough time because they have to fight to maintain their territories. At the moment, he doesn't look much like fighting. He looks a lot like sleeping, which is, of course, what lions do. Let me move the car a little bit just so that we can get a better view of both of them. Just going to turn here, and then I'm going to back up. Yes? There we go. So the female's fast asleep and the male's just checking things out. Addy, it's a difficult question to answer because out here, you know, we don't bring in vets or animal doctors to look after the animals unless the animals are very endangered or if they've been hurt by human beings. So if, for example, these two animals got sick or they hurt themselves on a log or they were bitten by another lion, we wouldn't help. And you might think to yourself, well, that's quite cruel and that's not very kind of us. Well, it's because we don't want to interfere here. We want to let nature be as natural as possible. And it can be very difficult to see an animal that's suffering. But, you know, often when we as human beings interfere in nature, we end up making things worse, even though we try very much to help. And so, no, we don't bring in doctors normally unless the animal is endangered or it has been hurt by human beings. So endangered animals we just can't afford to lose. And so we do our very best to try and keep them all alive. Animals like wild dogs or rhino. Lions, although there are not that many of them, we do not bring the vets in normally. Taylor, lions really can hunt any time of the day, but mostly at night. They're most successful at night, but we've seen them hunting in the early morning, we've seen them hunting in the early evening, at twilight, just as it's getting dark. Otherwise, sometimes you might, especially up in the Masai Mara, where we'll take you very shortly, sometimes you'll find them hunting in the middle of the day, depending what's around. If, for example, something like a wildebeest or an impala or some other kind of prey animal came past here, Right now, you'd be sure that these lions would jump up and grab it, even though it's the daytime. All right, we're going to see what else we can find out here. These lions are fast asleep, but we're going to send you all the way up to the Masai Mara, where David Gatambagitu is waiting to say good afternoon to you.
Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to a different country. And we're in a country called Kenya, in a game reserve called the Mara Triangle. It's such a long way from South Africa, where James Henry is. And we have something different because we got buffaloes for you. Look at that. There's 2 buffaloes there. Maybe there could be 3. Maybe there could be more. But look at how beautiful that landscape is. You can see more open area, unlike where James was. You can see all the way to the mountains in the background, all the way to the horizon, and all the way to the clouds. How beautiful is that? Well, boys and girls, my name is David, and with me on camera today is Manu. Manu, good afternoon. Manu is very excited for all of you kids because he has told me to tell you only one thing, or to request you only one thing. As much as you can, you ask us as many questions as you can. Comments too, through your teachers. I'm sure you know how to do that. James must have mentioned that to you. Like, why is that buffalo so big? You know, such a question. Why do you have another animal in between there that doesn't look like a buffalo and at the same time looks like a buffalo? Ms. Gable, today is, Manu, what day is today? Today is Tuesday, and being a Tuesday, we have been having lots of rain at the moment here in the Mara Triangle. And because of the rains, the temperatures have gone quite down. We normally have about 25 degrees centigrade in the afternoon, but today we have 21 degrees or so and about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's a bit cool. So the animal I was talking about is the wildebeest. And you see the wildebeest is coming close to the buffalo. So these are 2 different animals. But if you look at the buffalo, he got some 2 birds that are hitchhiking on him. And those 2 birds, we call them oxpeckers. See them? They have a relationship that we call a symbiotic relationship. And a symbiotic, I'm talking about the birds benefiting. Isabella, I think your question is, what do the buffaloes eat? As you can see, the buffaloes are herbivores because they are eating grass. Buffaloes, we say they're vegetarians. Or another name for vegetarians, you can say herbivores, because buffaloes will only be eating grass and maybe nothing else. Unlike other animals that will be eating both grass and leaves and twigs, in general, buffaloes will be eating grass. Now that one is a boy, because if you look at his horns, the horns are very big. Females don't have as big horns like the males. This should remind you of the bisons. I'm sure you have seen bisons. They are related or they are similar, but this particular ones we call an African Cape buffalo. They are huge, and here I think we have only boys sitting together. Now that one just rolling. Look at that one rolling on the ground. Either it want to scratch itself. Look at that. Do you see the belly is different from the back? And you see the belly is not as covered with much hair, or what we call fur, like the back is a bit different. But the birds could still not leave. The oxpeckers are still there, and what they normally do, they'll get the ticks or mites from these animals. He is so big. See the one oxpecker right on top there? Even you'd like to know how long buffaloes live for. Buffaloes live for about 20 to 22 years. 20 to 22 years is the lifespan of buffaloes. They don't live for that very long. 20 to 22 years is about the lifespan the buffaloes will live for. So all this, I'm guessing, they are all boys. And when the boys get a bit old, they'll always be living together away from the females. See, one is laying down there. Two are still grazing, and you can see they're flicking their tails and flicking the tails is when maybe they have so many flies and they want to get rid of flies from their bodies. You can see they're also flicking their ears. You'll get also flies will want to come to the very soft areas near the ears. See that one is scratching itself too. The neck must be very itchy. Either it's just itchy or there could be some mites or kind of parasites or ticks, and then he's just trying to remove them. See how much mud he got on the body. He got so much mud, and the other one in front doesn't have any mud. What will happen if of all the 6 or 7 of them here that are together, maybe one of them is more senior than the other. Sorry, what did Max ask? I live not very far from here, Max, if that was your question. I don't live very far from here. Our camp, me and Manu, is not very far from where we are. And I would guess, if I give you an idea of how many kilometers from where we are, we're about 10 kilometers from where these buffaloes are. That's where our camp is. So we'll always drive here in a car. Then we stay in the car, and then we are going, or we'll have Manu on the camera, and he's just going to point his lens to all these animals. And I'm thinking maybe today, if I'm lucky, I could be looking for cats for you, apart from the buffaloes. Or maybe even giraffes. In the bush you see in the background there, that's where maybe we could see some animals like lions. They'd be hiding in the bush in the background there. All right. I don't know where the wildebeest went. We had a different antelope here, but I think it moved on. So we might also be moving on to look for more things or for more animals for you. Okay, boys and girls? All right, let's see how lucky we shall be, boys and girls. But in the meantime, we'll take you back to South Africa to James.
We're all trying to be as lucky as possible. We have left our lions because they're fast asleep and they're not doing anything at all, and that's no good. You guys only have your game drive for 45 minutes. I know at your age that seems like years, but it really isn't very long at all. So let's see if we can't find you some other interesting things. It's not all about the big animals like the lions and the elephants and that sort of thing. We've got birds and frogs and all sorts of interesting things here. No, Elijah, just as I was saying, we don't only look for dangerous things at all, we look for all sorts of interesting creatures, frogs and reptiles and birds and insects. Now, I just wanted to check there is actually a bird. There are 2 birds having a horrible fight there. They're called Wahlberg's eagles, and they're having a fight with each other and with 2 very brave birds called fork-tailed drongos. So you can see the 2 eagles, and they're chasing each other. I think that one is carrying some food, and the one behind is angry because he's not being shared with. In fact, I think that's exactly what's going on. Anyway, they've disappeared. So they're not dangerous at all to us. Those are the Wahlberg's eagles. We enjoy them very much. We see them quite a lot here. They're one of the most common eagles we find. Let's see what else there is. Some of the most interesting things are the smallest things, like ants and termites and buffaloes. Buffaloes, I mean beetles. Curtis, you want to know if animals have ever attacked my vehicle? No. 1 or 2 have given me a little bit of a charge. They've gone, or the elephants have gone, and then I just move away, and then they don't attack me anymore. So no animal has ever attacked this vehicle. We try and avoid being attacked by animals. It's not much fun. There's an animal that would never attack us. It's much too scaredy cat. It's called a Natal spurfowl. It looks like a female Natal spurfowl, or a hen, we'd call her, same as you call a female chicken a hen. So you'd call a female Natal spurfowl a hen. Righty, we're going to leave this Natal spurfowl now and carry on. And Jamie Patterson would like to say hello.
I would like to say hello. So hello, my name is Jamie, and this afternoon Seb is on camera with me, and we are in South Africa, not far away from where James is. Now, something has attracted my attention, and I'm going to stop and show you in a second. I'm just doing a little bit of a drive. So, something very interesting has happened somewhere around here. Oh, yes. Okay, so what we have, or had, a moment ago, was a flock of vultures who've decided that they actually don't want to be on camera, and they've immediately flown off. I've never known vultures to be that skittish before. Now, this particular bird is a very, very important bird out here. It performs a very important service. Now, there's no trucks out here to come and collect the leftover meat that the predators eat, so the vultures actually come and finish off all the sort of remaining parts of the food that the lions leave behind, or the leopards, or sometimes even hyenas. And we can definitely smell that something is feeding somewhere around here. And there we go. There's a whole load of one particular type of vulture known as a white-backed vulture. And it's called a white-backed vulture, and you might have noticed when that vulture fluffed its feathers, you would have seen the white back there. Now, Isabella, you want to know how many other birds live out here? So many that you would not believe it. Out here in Djuma, we probably get over 300 different bird species, possibly even close to 350. And throughout South Africa, there's even more than that, because different species of bird live in different habitats. So there's lots and lots of different birds, from the big vultures like this to the tiny, tiny little birds that feed on the ground and look for seeds. Or perhaps even a little sunbird, which is kind of like our equivalent of a hummingbird. So we get loads of different kinds of birds out here. You saw those Wahlberg eagles with James. Now, that's quite a big bird, but a vulture is around about 3 times the size of that bird that James was showing you. And you can see they've got powerful, powerful claws and very sharp beaks. And that immediately tells you something about the bird that you're looking at. So birds have different types of beaks depending upon what they eat. Some have sharp beaks like this. Others, like parrots, also have sharp beaks, but that's because they need to crack open seeds and break into pieces of fruit. So then you've got things with long beaks that dig into the ground. You've got things with tiny, tiny beaks because they only eat small bits of food. You've got birds with long beaks because they catch insects, and especially things like bees and wasps, so they need to keep them away so that they don't get stung on the face. So there's loads of different bird species. Now, this is very cool, remember, because you're actually on a live safari. So what you're seeing is happening here in real life. That if you want your question answered, like Isabella, then you can do that. Jimmy, yes, largely vultures will eat dead animals. Sometimes if an animal is injured and it can't move away, then a vulture might try to eat it while it's still alive, but that hardly ever happens. So mostly the vultures come in and feed when the animal is already dead. And they usually, not always, but usually have to wait their turn, which is exactly what these vultures are doing. There's something somewhere here, and because they're not down on the ground, that tells us that there is still a lion or a leopard or something around here that is keeping them away from the food. And they're sitting in the dead tree because vultures are amazing flyers, but they're not very good at taking off. So they are very big, very heavy birds, and they have to flap their wings very hard to get up into the air. So they prefer to sit on trees that are dead, that don't have any leaves that they could get stuck on. Now, where is it? I could definitely smell something in here. Michaela, you want to know how big a vulture can get. Right. Now, these are quite big species of vultures, but they're not as big as the biggest species of vulture, which is called a lappet-faced vulture. Now, a lappet-faced vulture, I can't even show you here because it's taller than where the camera can see. So a lappet-faced vulture is really, really big. But then, if you take the hand of your friend next to you, just hold your friend's hand and stretch your arms right out. So stretch your arms out to the side and hold your friend's hand. Now, from the tip of your friend's hand to the end of your hand, that's how big those vultures' wings are. All right, we're going to just have a quick look here and see if we can explore a little bit, because there's definitely something here. All right, while we investigate, let's send you found something that's quite closely related to birds.
Well, it's quite closely related to birds, not very. That is a plated lizard. Now, we get two kinds of plated lizards here. We get the giant plated lizard and the rough-scaled plated lizard. I think that is the rough-scaled plated lizard. Its scales are large and they are rough. You can see that. Looks like little bits of armor. Whereas the giant plated lizard is very large, has a flattened body, I'm reading this, covered in small squarish scales folded along the sides. And the little one, well, this could be a junior one. They say here that the young ones are black with yellow spots. That looks, well, sort of black with yellow spots, doesn't it? See, he's looking at us, wondering if we'll ever figure out what he is. I think that's a rough-scaled plated lizard. Wonderful, wonderful creature. He doesn't live on the rocks, he lives in that termite mound. Nolan, there are many, many kinds of snakes that live in Africa. I'm going to give you a list of some of them, which you may have heard of. The most famous is probably ye olde black mamba. Excuse me. The black mamba, the African rock python, the Cape cobra, the Egyptian cobra, the Mozambican spitting cobra, the snouted cobra, the boomslang or tree snake, the vine snake, the house snake, the green mamba, the puff adder, the gaboon adder, not aver. So those are some of the more popular or well-known snakes that we get over here. And some of them are dangerous to human beings if you get too close to them, but most of them will leave you alone if you don't try and harm them. Brianna, this plated lizard doesn't really attack other animals. Well, I suppose it does. I mean, it attacks insects and that sort of thing, and insects are, of course, animals, not animals. And so, yes, I suppose you might say that they attack other animals, but not many. Yes, I'm just looking at a few pictures of the different kinds of plated lizards that we get here, and I'm pretty sure that is the rough-scaled plated lizard. No, Elijah, this rough-scaled plated lizard cannot manage to blend into its surroundings. It doesn't change colour like a chameleon does. It will remain that colour and maybe get a little bit or change slightly as it gets older, but it can't blend into its surroundings. So it has to, it's pretty well camouflaged, you have to admit. So it has to stay wherever it can, either in cover or hiding, or on the dirt like that, where it looks pretty much the same colour. See? You can't see it anymore. Haley, lizards are not very closely related to birds. The only reason that we say they are is that it was from lizards that birds evolved. So, you know, many millions of years ago, they, I suppose you could say, were the same thing, but it's very difficult to explain. They're not very closely related. So you shouldn't really think of them as being very closely related. Alrighty, we're going to continue looking for a leopard now, I think, while we go over to David, who's got something that's not that common in the Mara, but it's very common over here.
Well, if James is going to get a leopard, I want to tell you, boys and girls, one of the favorite meals or prey or animal that leopards love will be these antelopes here. And these antelopes, we call them impalas. Impalas, and if you look carefully at all of them, there's one that's running to join them. Look at the one running. Look. She's running. I don't know where she was. Maybe she had gone to the market. She has come to join the rest of the group. And she is now home, and she is now relaxed. Now, leopards love impalas, and if you look carefully now, there's another one that's coming in, and if you notice, this one got some horns, and the one that just came in last did not have horns. Now, some animals out here in the bush, we got big difference with some having horns and others not. Animals of the same type, or what we call animals of the same species. Now, these impalas here, the boys, what sometimes we call males, got horns, and females, like the one you see walking there, do not have horns. So when I talk of males, remember I'm talking about boys. When I talk of females, I'm talking about girls. Impalas are very unique when you compare them to all other antelopes, because you'll see so many girls or so many females with only one boy or with only one male. Now, what I'm trying to explain, we're going to move forward a little bit so that I can give you a better view, and I'll be able to explain to you what I'm talking about. Why the males or the boys look different from the females or the girls. So the boys or the males got the horns, and the females do not have the horns. But also, we got certain antelopes where both boys and girls, or males and females, will also have the horns. But the difference is the boys will have slightly bit larger horns than the females. Now we're going to look at these ones here because there's another type or a different species of antelope that will help explain what I'm talking about. Now you see the one on the foreground on your screen. This is a different antelope. And this one is called a Thompson gazelle. Thompson gazelle, and it's very different from the first ones that we saw. Now this one is a boy. You see he got horns. If you see a girl of the same type or the same species or female, she will also have horns, but very small, not as big as this one. Now that tells you the difference of what I was talking about. Now let's go to the bigger ones that we call impalas. Now look at that. That's the boy walking there because he got horns. All the others are girls, and they do not have horns. Isn't that not exciting, boys and girls? So a particular type or species of antelope, you'll get the males having horns and others no horns. Jeda, very good question. Do impalas have to fight for their food? What will happen? The animals live very peacefully here. If you look, Jeda, there are so many of them. Look at those, how playful they are. There's so many of them here, but there's so much grass. So ideally, they will not fight for food because there's enough for everybody. Look at that space. That's a very huge area, a lot of grass for these few animals to eat. Well, they're not few per se, but there's a lot for them to eat. So in general, they do not fight for food. What would happen, sometimes we get boys fighting with each other. That's why in general boys will have horns. Girls normally do not fight, like all those girls you see there, and they don't need the horns because they don't fight. Sometimes if boys need to defend themselves, they will use the horns. You see, if you look carefully, they got 3 different colors or 3 different tones of color on these impalas. And of course it's a bit cool, everybody's just busy eating. But some, if you look carefully, they're chewing and they're not eating, and you'd wonder why. What happens, some of these antelopes, they'll just be getting grass, cut and swallow, cut and swallow. Then afterwards, remove it and re-chew it. That's a good question, and you're asking whether the impalas are the same color when they're adults or when they're young. Not much of a difference. Not much of a difference. When they're young, they may not have those 3, see, they have like 3 different coats of colors if you look carefully, and they have like those 3 black stripes that you see there. When young, maybe the 3 colors may not come out very clearly, and they're not as brown as they are. But as they grow older, you'll see them now getting those colors. But those colors they got, they usually help them to blend in, and they can be able to hide away from the would-be predators or lions. They keep shaking their tail like that. You see how they flick their tails? Very busy, left, right, left, right. And if they have any flies, as we just saw earlier with the buffaloes, they get rid of any flies on their back. Sometimes if they have to remove them, an area where the tail will not be able to reach, you might see them jumping up and down. So I was talking of some of these antelopes, like the one you see there. She's very busy chewing, and you wonder why is she chewing and she's not eating. Now, what they do, they always cut grass, swallow, cut grass, swallow. Then afterwards, they remove it from their stomach, and they bring it back to the mouth, and they chew it to smaller particles. So animals that do that are called ruminants because they are able to cut grass or any other food, swallow, and then when they get full, they remove it from their stomach back to the mouth and chew it to smaller particles, and then they swallow. How exciting is that? Not all animals do that. Some do not do that, and a good example of animals that do not do that are zebras. But most antelopes, like the one we have on the screen, will always do that. Isn't that exciting? Oh, boys and girls, there's something different for you there in the very background. You see what Manu have spotted for you? I told you when we started, Manu was very excited, simply because he knew we're going to spoil you, or we are going to spoil you with lots of animals. And those are giraffes. And these are the tallest animals that we got in the whole world. Just try and estimate or compare the height of those animals against the trees. You notice they're very tall, and maybe even 2 more. You see? And they're near those trees because giraffes will always eat leaves, and they'll eat leaves on the trees. So they're not where the impalas are because they do not eat the same food. The impalas or the antelopes we had before will always eat grass, but giraffes do not eat grass. Now, there's a very big difference in terms of eating habit between giraffes and those antelopes we saw before. Giraffes will only eat leaves or small branches or small twigs, and we call them browsers because they browse on top of trees or on top of bushes. Now, antelopes, we call them sometimes grazers because they're always grazing on the ground, on the grass. You see what Manu is showing you? You see all those antelopes there, the impalas, they're just grazing the grass. But once in a while you might see them getting some leaves, but not exclusive like the giraffes. The giraffes are exclusive, leaves, twigs, and small branches, and nothing to do with the grass. It's so quiet, as you can see. The wind is not strong, and they're only reaching on the very short grass. You see the big stalks of grass there, they're not bothered, and they'll not eat it because it doesn't have a lot of vitamins. Grace, you're asking, why do giraffes have spots? Now, the spots will always help the giraffes to hide. If that giraffe moves slightly bit, Grace, in that bush, it's going to blend in. Blending in means it's going to hide, and that way the lions, for example, may not be able to see it. That's why they have the spots. See how tall they are? Very long necks. They are also the animals with the longest necks. Very long necks. Very long legs too. And I'm sure most of you might walk under the belly of the giraffe. Those giraffe legs could be about 2 meters, and I'm sure all of you are less than 2 meters apart from your teachers. So if you come to Africa one day and you get one giraffe that is stuffed, not a live one, you can walk under it. Isabella, very good question, and you want to know how tall the giraffes are. And the giraffes, especially the boys, are taller than the girls. And some of the boys could be up to 5 meters, and the girls could be about 4.5 meters, maybe 15 feet for the tall boys, and the girls could be about 12 feet. Can you imagine? They're very, very tall. It could be maybe 3 of you kids put together, 1, 2, 3, or even maybe 4 kids put together to get to the height of the giraffe. Okay, we're gonna be moving and look for something else. It was good to see the impalas, to see the tallest animals in the world. And maybe we might be seeing some more exciting things. I am thinking of looking for lions because James in South Africa is talking of looking for a leopard.
Yes, and we've come into the area where we saw the male leopard last time, which was, in fact, this morning. Let's have a look at this pond. Now, we do look for lots of little things. Let me move back a little bit so that the pond is in the light, and then let me get out of the car and see if I can't see something in the pond. Before I do that, though, because I think I'll frighten away whatever there is. If you look at the pond there... Oh, I've parked very badly. Sorry, David. Let me change that. There we are. You might just see a little face pushing out of the water. Let's watch there carefully. Keep looking. You might... Ooh, there's a wasp. There's a potter wasp, and you see there, top of your picture, there's a special wasp, and that wasp will carry some mud away and use that to build the nest that its little ones will live in. It'll probably fill that nest with caterpillars for its babies to eat. Isn't that special to see? That's wonderful. There we go. Off he goes. Or her youngsters. And she'll fill it with caterpillars. So fresh food for the babies. Doesn't sound very nice. Especially if you're a caterpillar. What I was hoping is that the head of a marsh terrapin would come sticking out of the water there. A marsh terrapin is like a turtle, but it lives in fresh water, and it likes to eat insects. But I don't think we're going to see its little head come out. I did see one as we drove past, but they do sometimes get a bit of a fright. Now what I want you to do is be very quiet and see if you can listen for 10 seconds. Are you listening? What you will notice is how quiet it is, except for the buzz of the cicada beetle. Except it's not a beetle, it's a bug. The cicadas, which you can hear going... And they're doing that to try and attract their mates. And look, our wasp is back, collecting more mud. Can you imagine how long it must take this little wasp to make its nest? It's tiny, you know, it's not a big animal. It's only about an inch long. Only about that long. And so it has to carry lots and lots of mud off to build its very special nest for its babies. Okay, let's carry on from there. This buzzing that you can hear is the cicada, and you'll hear them in all over the world. And you know, in America, where you guys live obviously, you won't hear them this time of year because you're sitting in winter, but you will hear them in the summer. And there are some cicadas that before they can come out and sing like this have to wait 17 years under the ground. Can you believe it? 17 years. That's twice your age, just about. Imagine having to wait underground for 17 years before you could come out. Blossom, that's a good question. The wasps make mud nests because they are safe. They're quite hard, they get very hard, like clay, and then they are protected from the sun, they're protected from things that might like to eat the babies, maybe other wasps or birds or that sort of thing. So there are lots of good reasons why a wasp would want to have a muddy clay nest. They're also waterproof, which means that they don't get very dry inside. Or wet inside, David. What I was trying to say is that they don't dry out, because if they did dry out, then of course the caterpillars inside, which the baby wasps must eat, would end up like beef jerky, and nobody likes caterpillar jerky, do they? No, David, they don't. David is on camera today. He's not very clever. Sorry, Cameron, what was your question again? Why is some of the land watty? So dead looking. Ah, well, because death is all around us, Cameron. But so is new life. And that's the big thing about the wilderness. It's what we might describe as a... I don't know what we'd describe it as. I mean, I have very mixed feelings about it. So if you look at something like this, just always be very careful before you get out of a car. Here is something dead. This is a dead branch. There's lots of dead wood around the place. There are dead bits of grass all over here. But if you pick up this piece of dead wood, you will not only find that there is life in it. I wonder if I can find some life for you in this one. This might be what's known as an epic fail, everybody. Yes, it is. But basically, this dead thing is providing food for termites. You can see lots of termites have lived here. That's why there's so much soil all over it. They've probably given up on it now and they've moved on. There might even be scorpions in here. So that's one part of the deadness. But then, at this time of the year, there's all sorts of new life. So although we've got this dead grass around here, if you look at this dead grass plant, on top it's dead, but underneath, after the rain that we've had, you can see there is new life. So there is constantly death and new life out here in the wilderness, and I find it quite difficult to deal with sometimes because nobody really likes to see things dying. But it's just what happens when things are born. They must eventually die, and that's what happens out here. But then there's new life all the time as well. So sometimes it's quite sad to live out here in the wilderness, and sometimes it's quite happy. I suppose all of you know what it's like to be sad and happy, and sometimes almost at the same time. Thank you, Cameron, for that question. Let's carry on. We'll go around towards where I'm hoping we might find Tingana, the male leopard. Now, a leopard, of course, is, I think, the most beautiful cat in the world. It's golden with black spots. And they've got big, strong teeth and heads. Very powerful. All right, well, I hope you join us again at some stage on a school safari. Enjoy the rest of your day at school, and maybe next time we'll be very lucky to show you a leopard. The rest of you, off you go to the Marsi Mara, where David apparently is driving somewhere looking for something.
Well, welcome regular viewers to the Mara Triangle, and it was nice. So it's always nice to have boys and girls, kids, when we show them Africa. Not many of them maybe have been lucky like you adults who have visited Africa and enjoyed the wilderness here. But the last few days we have been going through some very big rains, and it's still raining at the moment, not exactly where we are. And what I want man to do is just to show you the horizon. We'll first have a giraffe from a distance, and then after the giraffe, man will show the kind of clouds you got and a huge wall of rain. Fantastic, man. Look at that. And this is part of the short rains that we've been having the last few days. And actually the last maybe 48 hours would have over 100 inches of rain. Here in the Mara Triangle, it has rained very heavily. The short rains have come rather late, but I think, albeit the delay, we still get the right amount of rain we should get. There's a giraffe walking majestically there on the Mara Triangle Savannah. It's the Maasai giraffe, making it very picturesque. Just watch her walk there, posing and looking at the horizon to make sure she's safe wherever she's going. This is the Maasai giraffe. And remember, we do very interactive safari. Should you have any questions or comments, you can send them through #SafariLive on Twitter, or you can keep following us on the YouTube chat stream. People have always said giraffes do amble. Amble, I'm talking about moving two legs of one side at the same time, as you see her doing there. But on a closer look, sometimes when I look at the other animals, I also got a feeling they'll also amble. But giraffes, I think they're more conspicuous when they move two and two. So what she will do, she will walk, and after a couple of minutes she will stop, scan, because they have this big advantage of having wonderful sight. What did you see there? Has been claimed giraffes could see sometimes over a kilometer away and identify any danger, unless of course there could be a cat lying very flat in the grass. But the whole idea of them walking and stopping is just to make sure the distance is good. Jasmine, great comment there. So very beautiful, and you can see how tall the giraffes are, that you can see the horizon back there. Thank you, Jasmine. It couldn't be any better. Just watch that beautiful animal walking, and in the background seeing some torchwood trees with all the peacefulness you'd think, with very still, still air, very quiet, no visual pollution of any other animal or any other human, interference, with the long necks. Once in a while they keep flicking the tails. Now this is the Maasai giraffe. We've been having about 3 different species of giraffes. I think, to me, this is always the tallest of them all. Not unusual to see one alone, but I would expect either she is going to join the rest of the herd, or the others are right behind her. Maybe she's the pathfinder and making sure the future is clean, is safe for everybody else. I got a feeling she's going to join the rest. Fantastic. Giraffes, keep walking, giraffe. Make sure you join the rest of the herd. It's always not very safe to be on your own. And I think James Henry got some beautiful eagles with him.
I do have some beautiful eaglies. Sorry, I just have to do my first segment after school drive, just got to let myself loose a bit. Hello everybody, welcome to the normal drive. Please talk to us using the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, otherwise the YouTube chat stream will do. So we have 2 battaliers Is it one batelier or two? Well, it is one batelier. Is it two bateliers or two batelier? Le batelier. The batelier. I think it should not have an S, so we will call it one. Two batelier are sitting over there, and I would ordinarily think perhaps there was something dead about the place, but we do know that these batelier have got a nest around here. And so I think it's just Mr. and Mrs. Batelier, and they are quietly talking to each other about what should be cooked for dinner. I think we've got the male on the left, the female on the right. Is that correct? You can actually tell. I'm not just being facetious. Let me just quickly open my book, because I'm unable to remember off the top of my head which is which. Just open there. Right, the female's got the sort of whitish bits down to the bottom of her wing. So yes, if we've got the female on the right, male on the left. And she's saying to him, I don't wish to cook this evening, please, George. You must go and get some takeaways or cook yourself. And George is saying, I don't feel like cooking myself, my dear, but I will perhaps go and find something, you know, a dead squirrel, perhaps. Would you like a dead squirrel, my dear? Oh, George, a dead squirrel would be wonderful. A dead squirrel it shall be then, for love is in the air as the early summer falls upon our homeland. Oh, George, even though we've been together for 10 years, your romance never ceases to make me fall in love with you again. Oh, Lucy, thank you. I'm not sure if that's really what they're saying to each other. They do look very content, though, I feel. I think they look very happy indeed. We've come into the area where Tingana was this morning, Brentley Smith and the trainees. If you be quiet for a second, you might be able to hear him barking at them. They're in this vicinity looking for Tingana as well. So with any luck, the two of us will get lucky, one of us will get lucky, and by default the other will as well. And we'll have Tingana for you at some stage. Good. Let's move on from those delightful bateliers. Alrighty, I believe that Jamie, far from looking for things that are exciting and living, is looking for something that will be smelling and dead.
Well, you know, the thing about things that are smelly and dead is they often have exciting things attached to them by the teeth. Often in the case of, say, the missing in Kahuma Pride. But I've had absolutely no luck, I'm sorry. I disappeared for a while just to try and figure out what was going on with all of those vultures. I also have a little bit of post-traumatic stress from following vultures in the past and finding very unpleasant things in the form of poached animals. So I went to just go check. I found nothing. The smell wasn't right. The smell was really like very old skin. All that, you know, all that remains of the carcass is the dried out skin. And the vultures have all, I've chased them away just by moving, not me actively chasing them away, just by moving around the area. And they've all moved off. So I honestly don't know. Cannot figure it out. I suspect there was a lion kill here in the rain yesterday, and the vultures have finished it off, and they were just sort of basking for a little bit before taking off once again and going off thermaling, I think. I really don't know. That many vultures. Sometimes what happens though is you get one tiny thing. You know, it can be a dead baby impala or whatever it happens to be. But because vultures respond to the sight of other vultures landing, and bateliers as well, interestingly enough. James was giving the voices to the batelier family. Vultures will also watch bateliers and respond to their descent. So sometimes what happens is that you get a whole load of vultures and no food around, which might have been what happened in this case. I tried to follow the smell. I couldn't find anything. The smell was isolated to one tree, and there was nothing under it that I could see. There was, I don't know. Anyway, I've given up on that. I'm going back to those mating lions. That was my plan this afternoon, but it got slightly derailed by an attack of the gremlins early on in the drive. So that's where we're going now, back to join the ridge-nosed lioness and the male with her, because I found that I found evidence that it's quite an enthusiastic mating process still. I found a piece of his mane, big dreadlock, that she must have ripped out on the road next to them this morning. So I was out on a training drive this morning. I found them right at the end of the drive before anyone could get there, or too late for anyone to get there before the end of drive. So that's where we're going to go. Luz suggested that perhaps she wanted a piece of him for her locket. It would be quite a big locket. I think it might still be... Actually, I don't know what happened to it. This is a lot of impala, Seb. Look at the little babies there. Oh, sweet. Having a lovely afternoon lie down. Isn't that lovely? I don't suppose you lot know what happened there by Sandy Patch. I bet you do. Impala are very good at keeping their secrets. Luz pointed out that all of the impala mothers give their lambs the same haircut. I never would have thought of it like that, with the markings on the top of the head, but now that you've said it, I can't unsee it. Aww. Little matching hairstyles. I must say, I did really miss this in the Mara. The impala don't have the same breeding approach as they do here, so you don't get all of the little lambs wandering around of exactly the same age. I've really missed that, and I'm really enjoying seeing it again for the first time since the end of 2016. Oh, little gallop to catch up with Mummy. They're so elegant, even little. They're graceful and well put together and proportioned. Oh, where's everyone going? Now it's groaning for its mother. Oh, Mom's... Sorry, Seb, in the road. Mom found it again. She just came up to say hello because it was grunting at her. Here we go. Isn't it amazing how they know exactly which one is theirs? I remember my parents telling me back in my day at school we all had to wear matching hats. Big, giant, round hats. And I remember them telling me that they often struggled to pick me out of a group of running, playing children because we were all wearing our giant hats in the same uniform. Impala always sound a little bit like they're burping at this time of year. The contact calls between mother and lamb sound like burps, and then of course you've got the rutting males chasing all the females around for no good reason. Oh, they're beautiful. They're all clean. It's been a few days of rain and wind, and now that the sun's out, they look as though somebody's given them a proper bath. Keys is looking at the one thing that is completely unique to impala, and of course because we want to look at them, they've all gone and hidden them. So Keys is looking at the black marks at the back of the legs and wants to know what those are. Those are tarsal glands, and there's a bit of debate about why impala have them. They're scent mark, I mean in terms of, not in terms of leaving territorial markers, but they do exude a pheromone, the same as scent glands on the face might do, or on the forehead, or perhaps even the pedal glands, or between the toes of the hoof. No one knows exactly what the purpose is, except that, standard sort of chemical communication. There's some that suggest that when the impala are being chased, that they release their pheromones or their scent through those glands so that they can all stay together as one mass. I, for one, don't buy that. I think that doesn't really sound right at all. If you've ever seen impala scatter, they don't take the time when they're running from wild dogs to have a jolly good sniff and see which direction everybody's running. Oh, she hasn't given birth yet. She's going to be a bit late this year. Come on, we've got to get one live birth on camera. We must surely. All right, we're going to carry on. We're going to go across to where we know the lions are. We're lucky in that regard. We don't have to go searching. David, on the other hand, does. Let's find out how that search is treating him.
Well, it's still been very quiet for me. You can see all the amount of water here to the right, showing you the rainfall we have been receiving since the last couple of days. And we have to be very careful where we drive now. As much as we do a bit of off-roading once in a while, we are doing all what we can to stick to the big roads that are very solid, or they have been used for very many years. See the amount of water there? These are the roads we use. So we are being very careful we do not get stuck. So what I want to do now is to swing by the Mara River, where would you expect maybe, because I want to see how the water levels are, if the water levels have come up, because what we have gathered from the meteorological department is like the rain is all over the country, and the source of the Mara River is somewhere in the Rift Valley near where I come from. And if that's the case, it would mean a lot of water has collected either also from there and from the small tributaries that feed the Mara River, and the levels must have gone up. So just want to swing by the water or by the river and see how high the water is. The other day I was by the river and I was seeing some a small herd of zebras crossing the river, and there were crocodiles there, but the crocodiles could not do anything. They couldn't catch any of the zebras because the water level was very low, and being low, they couldn't do what we call the death roll. We've got some birds here that we call the guinea hens. Manu, let me know what's the best angle to stop as we head towards the river. Make sure you don't get stuck, Manu. See those birds there? We can't even get much closer than where they are now. Sorry about my foot on the brake pedal. And these are the helmeted guinea fowls, going in big flocks, always anything from 5, sometimes up to 50 together. And they're definitely feeding lots of seeds from the grass. But at the moment, because of the rain, what they could be doing is to catch lots of flies. Paula, thank you very much for your concern. I have to be very careful I do not get stuck, yes, because this is not time to get stuck. And in the Mara, we have lots of black cotton soil, which becomes very sticky. Thank you, Paula. I have to be very careful. So I've told Manu, anytime he thinks we're getting stuck, we'll have to stop, reverse, and take a different direction. So as much as these guinea fowls will feed on so many seeds from the grass, but I think because of the rains going on, they're catching all the insects flying. You notice they're putting their head up and they're running, and definitely they're chasing all the insects they could get. When it rains, we always see so many insects coming up. For example, it's just the termites, when they got wings, when we call them owlets. Keep eating. When it comes to alarm call, I think in this part of East Africa, the guinea hens are the best, or the guinea fowls are the best. They are very vocal. Should they see a cat, it's time to warm up, jump. They do fly as much as they seem to remain on the ground. And way back in my village, we used to raise guinea fowls together with chicken. And the eggs are slightly bit smaller than chicken eggs, almost the same size. Why are you running so fast? And if you want to keep pets where you come from, you do not keep pets of the guinea fowls. They are always very noisy, very vocal, and very loud. And they get you know, they get more noisy early in the morning, like 3 o'clock. Okay, Manu, we need to move, and hopefully we don't get stuck here as we head towards the river. Okay. Okay, Magic Dragon will come to your question in a minute. All right, we almost got stuck there, giving our question again, and have more of those guinea hens. All right, we got more of those guinea hens to the left there, Manu. Sorry, it was a bit noisy there when I was trying to rev to come out. I would say guinea fowls, Magic Dragon, nice for your question. I would say the guinea fowls are more related to the quails than anything else. See how they run there. And not once we have seen the guinea hens together with the quails. I would say they're more related to the quails. Way back also we used to eat eggs from the quails, and as we also did eat eggs also from the guinea hens. See the blue there? And it's more bright blue on the males than on the females. And again, as I said, they're always very vocal. Anytime they would see something they don't like, we'll always hear them. Not sure you can hear them in the background there. And they're doing more of catching of insects than getting the normal food. They usually get the seeds from the grass, because we've got so many insects now that are flying. Hope you can hear them. All right, well done for the guinea hens. Lots of them moving. We'll get so many enemies they got. I'm talking about, for example, leopards will come for guinea hens, cheetahs will come for guinea hens, and also sometimes young lions, when they're starting to hunt, they'll also hunt guinea hens. Not sure we got a hippo out away from the water. Let me see how close we can get. How is that, Manu? Very good angle. Before we show you our hippo, let's first go to James, who got an owl somewhere.
Look at this. This is very special, everybody. It is, as David would say, an owl. I don't mean David on camera, I mean David Gitu. And this is a spotted eagly owl. Now the size is about 45 centimeters, so that is, how many inches would that be? That'd be about 12 plus 6, 18 inches or so. 18 inches. I'm just going to quickly talk to Jamie Patterson on the radio. Go ahead. Just north of the pan, north of the road, but before you get to the pan, you should see my tracks going off to the north of the road. And that big termite mound of the Scotia, they're just north of that. Right. So spotted eagly owl, monogamous, I'm just reading here. Wide range of nest sites on the ground, in trees and on buildings. On the ground. That's very interesting. I wonder where they'd nest on the ground. Let me see if I can find a little bit more information on that. Nests sometimes only 500 meters apart. Copulation occurs on the ground or near a tree. Nest, here we go. Diversity of flat substrata into its nest scrape, 30 centimeters in diameter, can be formed on level ground, steep slope, ledge, on earth bank or rocky cliff. That's very interesting. I thought they were tree nesting birds, under a rock, usually concealed beneath vegetation in a tree stump, or hollow on an old stick nest or pile of flood of debris. Okay, so they will use an old stick nest sometimes. So if you find probably, I guess, a vulture or another eagle's nest, maybe they'll use that. But I wonder if there isn't a nest somewhere here in this bank. It would not surprise me that this was a parent looking after the eggies. Peak of eggy laying is between August and October, so it'd be quite late now. Although they do lay apparently all year round. I always like to go to the food now because it's always quite interesting to see the surprising things that they will eat. Let me have a look. Normally it would just be rodents and that sort of thing, but you'll find there'll be some odd bits and pieces that they've been seen eating. Slow glide from Lookout Post, yes, that's very good. They take. Are you ready, everybody? Here goes the list. Insects, bats, swallows. Swallows at communal roosts. They don't catch them in the air. I was going to say would have been quite impressive. Nightjars hunts mainly at dusk. That's very interesting. I see that Louise is pointing out that you can see its pupils constricting and dilating. I'm not sure why they'd be doing that. Yeah, it's odd. It's not like the light's changing. Lou says every time it blinks. What a magnificent creature, isn't it? And they really do fly completely silently. But interestingly, its pupils... what's the opposite of dilate? Constrict. Its pupils constrict when it closes its eyes and then opens them again, which is the opposite to what you'd expect. What a magnificent picture of a spotted eagly owl. Little ear tufts being ruffled in the gentle southeast breeze. It's considering us with a, I would say, a contemptuous look. Yes, Louise, I also feel a little bit like it's posing. I do suspect quite strongly that it's looking after some eggies, or even some chicks. And it's trying to look inconspicuous. This is a very precious sighting, everybody. We don't get sightings like this. This is really very special. Bob, I don't know how to answer that. I'm not sure of all bird species, but certainly there's the spotted eagle owl, there's the giant eagle owl. We get a thrush nightingale, so that's got two. Hawk eagles, thank you, Louise. Harrier hawk. Look at this. He's obviously feeling like he's a little bit exposed there. Magical. Alrighty, well, I think let's leave our spotted eagle owl while you go across to David Gathamba Githu. Tell him about my owl as he tells you about another bird nesting in the bank of the great Mara River.
Well, we got to the Mara River, and initially I wanted to see the levels of the water, but before doing that we found these charts here that I think are trying to make some nest. Either they got some nest on the bank of the river, and you can see how high the Mara River, the banks are, and look at that height. And you'd imagine the migration of the wildebeest when the animals, especially the wildebeest, jump from that high and they plunge themselves in the river, and that's how they end up breaking or fracturing their legs. is quite a depth. I'm looking at a height of about maybe 5 meters, and anybody that will jump 5 meters definitely will not have a good chance of survival. And then they come climbing over each other. So those charts now are just flying away, and I think the banking there on the side of the river. And when the water is full, it rarely gets to that high. It could go up to 3 meters high, 4 meters, but I think this is all because of erosion and some of the banks of the river has broken down. I think we've got some 2 hippos there that are just trying to come out of the water as it's cooling off and it's getting a bit dark. Is there no more time to come out? There they are, and I think they're just youngsters. Now, looking at the water levels, comparing to how it has been the last few months, I think it has raised the levels much higher. And also you can see how brown or how dark it is. That shows a lot of rain upstream and carrying so much soil erosion as it's coming down. It was just a little stream or just trickling down, and I think half of what you see there was not covered by water until maybe a week ago, which is an indication things are getting better. More rain upstream of the catchment area of the Mara River that we call the Mara Escarpment. It's about 250 miles long, that's the Mara River, starting somewhere in Kenya and going through the Mara Triangle all the way to the Serengeti National Park in Tanzania and draining in Lake Victoria. Lake Victoria is a lake that is shared by 3 East African countries, Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania, which happens to be the source of the famous or the longest river in Africa, the Nile River, going all the way to Egypt to the Mediterranean Sea. Now, every few kilometers, if you go along the Mara River, you'll always see hippos or crocs. So we've got 2 of these youngsters here, but I'm sure there could be others. Yes, there's some little ears you can see there. And I'm sure they're happy that the levels are back, because hippos without water, they are done. I mean, they cannot survive. They'll definitely need water. Hippos have been known to be killed by sunlight if too much sun is on their bodies, because they will not be able to breathe or perspire or control the body temperatures. They've got very delicate skins, and too much sun without going to moist their skins, they will definitely die. Could be like 15 years ago, so 13 years ago, there's a huge drought in Kenya, and this river almost dried up completely, and we had about 15-20% loss of hippos to the drought. But so far so good, and if the short rains will continue like this all over the country, the levels might go to half of that bank you see there. Not any crocs around on the beaches like that you see on the far of your screen. Sometimes you could see some crocs, but at the moment it's just hippos. Rashni, you are right, and that's a great comment, because a hippo, as I said, without water is as good as dead. So if the levels would have continued the way it has been the last few weeks or months, I would say it was a bit worrying. All of us were very worried, and we were wondering when the rains will come, because without water, and I mean, this is one of the main rivers that also feeds Lake Victoria, we felt there could be a very big concern. But more so for all the animals. There's a little hippo baby or something there. Yeah, that's a very tiny hippo baby, Roshni. I hope you can see it. Such babies would definitely be the first casualties without water. So tiny. Well done, Manu, for spotting that. It's a very cute baby there. You're right, Lou. Oh, and the mother just trying to snuggle with the baby. So you would imagine this little tiny, hippo baby without water. As I said, they'll be the first victims to die. And you can see they get submerged throughout the day, and you see the backs of hippos always blend in very well with the water. So no water could be very tricky. The time was saying 12, 13 years ago, we lost like 10%, and that one also included fully grown adults, not only the youngsters. And I would imagine the youngsters must have died very early. They'll have, more delicate skins than the adults. And what the hippos ended up doing, what to look for bushes. Alice, you say it's so tiny. She is so small, and I think this could be one of the smallest baby hippos I've seen in a long time. She's just being trained by the mother there to jump up and down. Oops, look at that, really turn. And what an exercise, what a lesson she's getting from the mother. Hippos are so heavy, I mean big density, they would not be able to float, or they are also not able to swim in the water. So what I'm saying, that hippo I would say is at the very base of the river. She's lying definitely on her side, and I'm saying she because I'm guessing that's the mother. Look at the head of that small little baby there. This is so very cool. Very difficult to age her. I wouldn't know how old she is, but I would just say maybe just a few weeks. And they'll be born at very shallow, waters. Definitely very close to water, if not inside the water, because of the delicate skins. See the small head and small ears there that she got. How small. That's the mother, maybe training the young one. Vicky, very good question. Do hippos have their babies under the water? I would say yes, and if not under the water, on very shallow waters, because as I said, those babies got very delicate skins, because even for the adults, they worry because of their skin, getting hit so badly by the sun. The babies would definitely be much. So Vicky, I would say they get their babies under the water, and if not under the water, very close to very shallow waters, where once they're born, straight they'll go to the water. And I've seen some being able also to nurse under the water. So the baby you're seeing up and down there, they got very special membranes where they can just close their noses and stay for a couple of minutes without breathing, because look at that baby now, she's disappeared. So they are comfortably able just to shut or close their nostrils or their noses, and they can be able to nurse or suck mammals for milk under the water. There have always been a big debate, how long do hippos take under the water before breathing? Snuggle bear, would a crocodile try to eat a baby hippo? Of course. I mean, with the possibility, why not? And they know that could be a very easy prey, but I will tell you, Snuggle bear, the mothers are always very defensive, and they will come in very quickly to defend their babies. They are always very watchful of the crocs, and I guess what they do, they make sure when they're just about to give birth or when they have very small babies, crocs are not anywhere close by. As much as crocs can be very sneaky, because underwater crocs have been known to see very well. They have a very special islands. They can still keep their eyes open and just swim in the water and maybe sneak on the hippo babies. But yes, with an opportunity, most predators will always take the easiest opportunity to feed on. Very small baby, resting her head on the mother's neck. How sweet is that? Well, I don't know, you could give me one word tweet. What do you think of that small hippo baby? Hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. Any one word like how tiny, how sweet, an amazing baby. I'd be very happy to get a few words. Or what do you think of that sighting of that small little tiny baby trying to play with the mother up and down? Manu, do you have your one word? Manu says adorable. I love that, Manu. We'll keep that one for now. Thank you for sending it through to me, Manu. Manu is my camera operator this afternoon. And you notice the mother keeps that baby so close. I mean, she would not want to take any chances. And as she moves, the baby's on the tail of the mother. Any slight mistake the mother do, anybody will take advantage. I don't know whether big birds like big eagles have been known to take hippo babies, because some of them will perch on the big trees along the rivers. You never know, big birds could do anything. The only candidate I would think that could very quickly do that could be Roshni, you say it's precious. I agree with you, precious. And Roshni, those are the kind of trees I'm talking about. Sometimes you could see eagles, like the Marshall eagle, perched up there and looking on the ground. And they'll not miss an opportunity like that. Lily, wonderful comment. At your age of 7 years, you say love. Very good. I like love for 7 years. Thank you very much, Lily. And for 7 years, that's pretty good. And that's a marabou stock there. Well done, Manu. And a marabou stock being a scavenger, I highly doubt she would bother to come for a baby hippo. But if it was an eagle, crown eagle, for example, or a Marshall eagle, I would not be surprised them just trying to come down and trying to catch a hippo baby. Sneaky animals would be definitely lions and hyenas. They have been known to go for adults, and I'll not be surprised if they go for baby hippos. Maybe the mother has to allow the baby go down under the water. Now have some rest. You've done enough exercise for the day. And that is very exciting. And talking of the predators that sometimes have been known to go for hippos, either adults or babies, I think Jamie got some.
Fortunately, we're quite far away from Dave's tiny baby hippo. It sounds absolutely adorable, and it would be very sad if these lions were to attack it right now. But yes, he is absolutely correct. Lions are one of the main predators of hippopotamus. Hyena, of course, as you know, from North Clan, will also hunt them. But they really are the only two predators that are big enough or have the numbers to tackle something as large as a hippo. You know what I found quite fascinating about that? And we'll get on to the lions in a moment, but they're sleeping now, so we can finish talking about what Dave's been seeing. What I found quite fascinating about that hyena-hippo hunt in the Mara was the fact that the mother abandoned the baby much sooner than I would have expected. She just up to left. I don't know if she thought the baby was behind her. Now, you'll notice, of course, that you are seeing shadows that are moving around and look very much like Seb and myself. That is because you are seeing shadows that look very much like Seb and myself. Hello. Yes, hello. Here we are. It was not by design. The lions came and lay here. And they lay right up close to us, and I didn't want to risk disturbing them when they looked so very peaceful. So here we sit, and very shortly our shadows will lengthen to the point that it is no longer a problem. So sorry if you're finding the movement distracting. We'll try and keep as still as possible, or I will. Seb can't. He's got to move the camera. Right, we are back with the mating pair. And there is the beautiful male, and he is beautiful. He really, really is. Isn't he lovely? He really looks like a poster lion. He's gorgeous. All lions are pretty, but some lions are prettier than others. And he is very pretty. Hey, boy. Yes. Oh, you wouldn't have been able to hear that, but he just went as if to say, come on, guys. Don't view me purely by my looks. There's so much more to my character. So much more depth. Young male. Well, I mean, he's an evoker, so he's still quite young. He's got a way to go. But already face bearing the scars of the life of a male lion. And quite possibly the life of a male lion with a lady in his life, at least temporarily. So this is not the same evoker, as far as I can tell, that was mating with this female last week. So she's had a rough time of things. She was mating last week. I think it was around about Tuesday or it was Wednesday. We saw her not far from here. There you can see the marks on the back of her neck from being grabbed repeatedly by the male's teeth. So she then reunited with the rest of her pride, because we saw her, what, was it 2 days ago? 2 days ago? No, yes, 2 days ago. I lose track of time. And now she's back mating once again. Now this presumably was what I heard that one morning it was yesterday morning, when Seb and I nearly drowned. I heard lions fighting. I assume it was the first few mating sessions of these two, which of course during an estrus cycle those are always the most aggressive encounters, and then after that they sort of slowly but surely lose, well, I guess one might say motivation, something or other. Isn't his eye beautiful? Admittedly closed most of the time, but gold. This lion has gold eyes. It's interesting, I haven't spent much time with the evokers, but I have noticed that he's not relaxed with the vehicle. Obviously, I mean, he came and lay where he's lying now, which is not far away from us at all. It's probably about, what, from my feet, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's about 5 meters away. There you go, here's my foot, and there's the lion. I'll put my foot back in though, because I don't want to disturb him. So he came to us. So he's not comfortable with vehicles, but he did. I noticed this morning and I noticed again this afternoon, he gives us a sort of odd look every now and again, as if to say, what exactly are you doing? This was so beautiful a moment ago with the golden light where they were sitting. It's all gone wrong. So they mated just as we arrived, which was about 10 minutes ago, I think. So by law of averages, we should have another 5 minutes to go until they meet again. But you can't really exactly work it out that way, because it's hot, and often they'll mate more frequently in the morning or in the evening, and then they'll sort of, just making sure she's still there. She's still there, don't you worry, buddy. Jonathan, the biggest recorded litter of lion cubs, which of course we should be expecting in... Actually, no, we won't, but I'll go into that in a moment. The biggest litter recorded was a lioness that had 6 cubs. I believe that was in Nairobi. That's a wild litter. I have a funny feeling that if you were to dig down into the situations where there are lions in captivity, you'll probably find that there are bigger litters recorded, just because it's such an artificial situation. There's more food around, there's more food available, and so on. So, but in the wild, the biggest litter was 6. Lions only have 4 nipples, so it really only makes sense for them to have 4 cubs at a time. It's usually between 2 and 3. I think I'm going to move, because I think the shadow is going to drive me mad. I'll just go forward a little bit, boy, with your gold eyes. Would you mind? Lovely. Lovely, lovely. Is gold the right word? I feel that it is. If you have any further suggestions as to what word would describe his eye colour, you can send that through on #SafariLive on Twitter. It's okay, my boy. Just getting my shadow out of your face so you don't have to deal with us, although he was probably enjoying it, you know. It's okay. It's alright, boy. Sorry. Shame, he was probably actually quite enjoying the shade we were providing. I just thought the constant movement might not be all that appealing. I'm looking at her. Yes, 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 no. And back to sleep. He was watching our antenna. He's obviously not used to vehicles with things sticking up out of the top of them. Look at him, he looks as though he's brushed his mane, especially for this appearance. Look at that. I mean, people pay lots of money for highlights like that, and for layers. Highlights, layers, and a blow dry. I mean, that is a proper salon treatment, it looks like. And Charlotte says, of course, he's with his girlfriend. Yes, absolutely. Well, listen, I must say, I don't know if girlfriend is the right way to describe it. There's no love lost here between these two. Although I suppose, you know, some couples, that's just their way of doing things. Honey, I like that. Deb says his eyes are like honey. They are indeed, although now, of course, there's a little bush in front of them, and he's sleeping. Oh, there's movement from the lioness. She's yawning. She's moved her ear and one toe. Could this be it? Could it be the moment? No. Guess not. Well, I think if they were going to get up, they probably would have done it when we started the car and moved it a little bit. Now, of course, the sun's gone behind a cloud. We didn't even need to move. Tisk, tisk. So for those of you who've missed which lioness this is, it is an Nkuhuma, by the way. Yes, perhaps the slightly cooler temperature might hasten things along a little bit. Cold weather, cuddles. They're definitely not going to be cuddling each other, though. Every time he moves close to her, she growls, he growls. There's a lot of growling going on. Not really met with much enthusiasm. I was actually... And James is a little busy at the moment, but he must just have a look in the tech box of the vehicle that he's in, because I think I left a piece of this lion's mane in there. I forgot to pick it up. The bit that I found on the road. Most likely courtesy of her, unless he hooked one of his dreadlocks in a bush or something. I think it was more likely to be her. And she's not showing any sign of any serious injury, though. Oh, yes, I said no, we won't be getting cubs in the next 3 months. We might, and we might not. The reason being that when new males, and their vocals, I would say, still qualify as relatively new, when new males make their way into an area, the lionesses actually go through a period of false estrus. In other words, where it doesn't actually, conception doesn't actually occur, because they have to make sure that the males are there to stay, that they're not going to move on or be displaced by other males. There's no point in having cubs with them if in the next 3 months after those cubs are born, there's a new set of males that then kill them, and the lioness has to go through that whole process again. So there's a sort of, I'm not sure, a grace period, I guess, would be the best way of phrasing it, when new males come into an area where matings like this, while serving to temper the male's aggression and to perhaps endear the females to them, doesn't actually result in cubs. We'll have to see, though. The invokers have been here for... I still think I'd call them new. Okay, sleepy lions, don't you dare get up now, because I'm actually going to send you all the way back to Kenya with Dave, who apparently is having a look at a termite mound. I wonder what he has to tell you about it.
Well, when lions decide to be sleepy or flat, not much you can do, but not these very small organisms here, which seem to be building a tower. These are termites, and they're in their hundreds, and you can see that is the base of that tower, and see how small they are and the work they have done in the last couple of days, I would say, or couple of weeks, more weeks than days. And as soon as the rains start, this is exactly what they do. We got like over 3,000 types of, I would say, what do you call it, the termites in the world, and these particular ones here are just building this tower. These are the workers, and you can see they use their saliva as water, and then they use soil as cement. And this reminds me of one big tower that I saw in New York, called the Empire State Building, and I tried to imagine how that building was built, It's exactly the same thing here. These small insects are doing huge tower. Comparing them to their size, you can see their intelligence. I would call them very clever architectural engineers. And these are the goodies that come with rains. So they got very divided labor, or the insect that will always divide their work. They're very social insect, always working in their numbers together. And down there definitely is the queen. And with the workers, we got the drones, we got the soldiers. So either the mound was existing from the ground, and now they're just trying to bring it up slowly. And what happens, it brings them more air. And there's a mold, a garden mold underneath. And how clever. If we come back here tomorrow, I'm sure they'll have gone a few inches up. Babu Gal, great question. Why don't we do bushwalks in the Mara? I would say we could, but I would say not yet. The Mara is pretty dangerous. Well, not that Juma is not dangerous, but hopefully if that would happen one day, we'd be able to do bushwalks in the Mara. But as yet, we don't do bushwalks here. Hopefully, maybe one time that will be possible. If not, then, we'll still keep enjoying what we see here. But the Mara, I think, is a little bit more wild than it is in Juma. Now, we think the rains might be coming, and if you look in the background there, Babogal, out there, that's the Olororo escarpment, and behind that escarpment is where we live. That's where our camp is. And we can easily walk there without a problem. Not as many wild animals there. And also different parks, different conservation areas have different management. And look at those thick clouds that are building there. If it would rain, it would mean we shall have such a huge storm later in the day, or rather in the night. Look at that. The short rain seems to be like the long rain because of the intensity. Last night the rain started like almost 3 in the morning. This morning, and the better part of the morning, we had massive rains. Definitely, we are not going to see any sunset. Manu loves sunsets. And I'm sorry, Manu, it's not your day for beautiful sunset. He's just laughing, wondering what's happening. I mean, rain is not bad. Personally, I love rain. I cope very well with rain. Presentos, the other side of that mountain is still Kenya, but at the very edge on the escarpment, when, to the very end of the escarpment, that's the boundary between Kenya and Tanzania. But the other side of that escarpment that you see there, that we call the Olororo escarpment, it is still Kenya. If you keep moving from that escarpment straight line, you'll end up in a country called Uganda. You'll end up first on Lake Victoria, then another country called Uganda. Right below there, there's a camp there. That's called Kichotembo. And wonderful. We might be moving on now, just making sure we get close home, or in an area, if it rains heavily, we shall be able to put the flaps down very quickly, because you never know. The rains here just start like that, and sometimes without warning. There are times it starts to spit, a drop, a drop, a drop, and then we start prepping ourselves to bring the flaps down. But not once. We have just found the rain just opening, boom, and before we realize, we have to work out very quickly. Very good. We're going to keep moving, and let's go back to South Africa, and I hope to James to find out how his afternoon is going.
I'm going fine because I've found something that makes me think of pudding. A violet-backed starling, which of course is a dreadful name. It used to be the plum-coloured starling, and I imagine warm plum pie on Sunday afternoons with cream. I don't think that that's what the starling thinks of at all. Anyway, that is the male violet-backed starling. And they've got one of the most subtle starling calls, which if I might be so bold as to suggest I play it for you, I think I shall. Dave, there's no need to show me playing it, is there? Is there a need for that? Okay, there is apparently a need to show me playing the call. Here we go. Search. Starling. Violet-backed starling. Increase volume. Play. You see, it is quite subtle for a starling. The males, at least all the other starling species, have got rather loud and obnoxious calls. Now, there's a female, David, on the ground, just hopping there. And you see? Hop, 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 hop. You got her? Yes, you have. That's Mrs. Violet-backed starling. Isn't that cool? Is it? Yes, it is. Mrs. Violet-backed starling. No, Louise, she's not pretty. She's pretty drab. But she's drab for a very good reason. And that is because, of course, it is her major responsibility to look after the eggies. Whereas the male, if he gets wiped out by a predator once they've mated, doesn't matter so much, you know. They'll nest in a tree hole somewhere around here, and I think they return to the same nests every year because there's a little pair that lives outside the camp, just outside the workshop. They obviously like the sound of angle grinders and welding machines and the smell of cooking maize meal porridge because they have returned to the marula tree just outside our camp. It's so nice when you drive in and see them flitting up into their nest. Aren't they beautiful? They're one of my very favourite birds. I've decided that now, especially after hearing their call. Sorry, Roshni, the game drive radio was blaring idiocy into my right ear. Can you go with your question again? Yes, Roshni, I think Mr. is very handsome indeed. And he's a great example of the sexual dimorphism that so many birds show, and that we are probably able to explain as something to do with sexual selection. David, you're now filming a branch, which is utterly helpless. Thank you. Yes, you're clearly looking at something else. So, a great example of sexual selection. There is no biological benefit to the male having those colours. They'll probably make him slightly more vulnerable, but like the peacock, but the females have selected for those colours for various reasons. Let us go across to Jamie now and her lions. I'm going to beat David with my fists.
Lions. All right, James, you do you, and we will continue to sit with very sleepy lions on this sunset safari. Very peaceful way to spend a Tuesday afternoon. Now, a little bit later, we're going to try again and go to the hyena den. You'd think I'd have learned my lesson. I got up this morning purely to go and see whether or not they were around so I could do what needs to be done. And they weren't. They were around when we were doing drone tests early this morning. And then when it was light enough, they all abandoned me. So we'll see. I'm not going to hold out any hope at this point. I've given up on hope. I'm despairing. Every time I go to that den, the cubs were there, so they are there. Yes, this is my tiny violin ensemble indeed. And our lions are very sleepy. Come on, guys. I'm not leaving till you mate at least once. More. No. They are deaf to my pleas. Lauren, you want to know if the mating means that they are accepting the evokers. Accepting, I don't know is really the right word. Females don't really have an option. when it comes to territorial takeovers by males. They accept till they die, quite honestly. And mating is a much better way of approaching the peace process than anything else. So there's never a situation where males come into an area and the females turn around and say, oh, we actually don't like you very much, and chase them out. That just doesn't happen. Males come in, they establish themselves. There's a bit of unpleasant... Oh, speaking of unpleasant, they just wafted a very unpleasant smell in my direction. Oh, that took me by surprise. There's a bit of unpleasant... I can't remember where I was going with that. I got completely derailed by the smell of a lion passing gas. In the beginning, there is a lot of aggression between the lionesses and the males, and typically if the lionesses can avoid the males, unless they're in estrus, they will. They will try and move away from them. And then once the males have fathered the first generation of cubs, then they become slightly more affectionate towards them, or at least they don't growl at them every time the lions come into the area. So there's no real choice from the females, but I suppose acceptance is not a terrible word, because they do become more gracious about the time spent in the male's company, and they're often seen together. They occasionally even rub heads with them and greet them, and the cubs, of course, clamber all over them. But we're quite a long way away from that where the Avoca males are concerned. I think it is going to take at least one generation of cubs before we get there. For now, there's a bit of growling, a bit of unpleasantness. But the lionesses are realistic, and they need to broker peace. Again? Really? Phew. Dylan, you've heard it said, and you have read as well, that lions have a barbed penis, and you want to know if there are... Oh, he's dreaming. If... I don't know what he's dreaming about. Sorry, Dylan, hold on 1 second. We'll get back to the barbed penis, for it is an intriguing conversation. Is he chewing in his dream? Is he grinding his teeth? He's just really stressed. You just get a bite plate. You can damage your teeth like that, my friend. You're going to wake up with a terrible headache. Oh, we're done now. Right, are there any other animals? The big cats do, leopards do, as far as I know, cheetah do as well. So it is actually quite common. Now, the theory goes it's a sort of a two-way explanation as to why that is the case. One is that apparently the repeated mating with the barbed penis induces the ovulation in the female, and therefore allows fertilization to occur. And it also ensures that basically there isn't a bigger, better, stronger male out there. So it might be a weakling that comes along and starts mating with her, but then another better male comes along, but she hasn't ovulated yet, at which point the bigger, better male takes over, and he actually fathers her cubs. Apparently the barbs also help to remove, this is what I've read, they help to remove the semen of other males. Now, I don't buy that, really, because that's not quite how everything works. I mean, by the time fertilization is going to occur, you can't, I don't want to go too sort of graphically into detail, but you can't pull semen out that way and there's no risk of sperm floating about elsewhere. The sperm in the semen has to travel quite a distance in order to fertilize the female. So I don't know. I mean, that's what I've read and been told, but I'm not 100% sure I buy that. I of course do not have many scientific degrees to my name and multiple letters into my title, so I could of course be mistaken. Just seems a little odd. Lions also have a bone in their penis, as do most animals actually, most mammals. It is called a baculum. Dogs too. Your domestic dog at home has one. Well, unless it's a female, in which case it doesn't. He's still dreaming. His paws are just twitching ever so slightly. What you dreaming about, boy? Now his face is twitching. What's happening? Dreaming of challenges to the throne. Imagining that when they did come in, it wasn't nearly as easy as it was in real life, perhaps. Dreaming of big, dark-mailed Birmingham males. Oof! Terrifying. For what else does a male lion dream of? Maybe he's dreaming of a lioness that doesn't hate the sight of him and whack him in the face every time he approaches her. Maybe he's dreaming of a happy, peaceful... Is she his dream girl? Well, she should be, but I'm not 100% sure that she is. It's fascinating. The twitch, he keeps twitching. It goes from his face to his paws and all the way down to, let me just put it this way, not quite his tail. I can see it from my perspective. Fortunately, you are spared that. But from my angle, I can see it. His dream is an all-body experience, I have to tell you. I think that might change my thoughts on what his dreams are of. All right, there's another vehicle coming in, which is fine. I mean, you don't have to go anywhere. But it might just mean, what you do find is sometimes the presence or the movement of vehicles, because it wakes the lions up ever so slightly, they then go back to what they were occupied with when they were awake, which is, of course, mating. So let's see, because the vehicle, if they can find us, should be making their way in shortly. I'm trying to work out, if she gets up, which way is she going to face? That way. Oh, she could move anywhere. It's very difficult to predict with mating cats. And I always find a front view is infinitely preferable. Oh, big stretch. You awake? Are you awake? Yes? Is it go time? Sorry, boy, I'm not laughing at you. I think she's got a headache, buddy. Oh, can't blame her. You probably gave it to her. Look at his face. He is on the one hand interested and on the other slightly afraid. Oh. And you're back in our shade again. Peter G, you want to know what signals the female will give the male if she is ready to mate. So most of the the signals are scent-based. So she will instinctively urinate quite frequently. The male will pick up on the smell of the hormone levels within the urine, and he will respond in kind to that. She will also display quite what could be described as quite flirtatious behavior, and we should see it now. I mean, it really is time. I think she will get up in a second. She's not gone flat back onto her side. She's now just resting her head on her paws. So we should see it now. But what she'll do is she'll approach him, and she will put her head near his and then turn around so that her rear end is sort of, you know, quite obviously presented to him in a way that leaves absolutely no room for any doubt as to what she intends, at which point they will then mate. It is not quite as flirtatious as the mating dance of a leopard, where the female really, she does a dance. She slides backwards and forwards in front of the male in a what I assume would be called an appealing way for leopards. So she does actually approach him. It's interesting with mating. In the beginning, it's usually the lioness. At the beginning of the mating cycle, it's the lioness that approaches the male. Often towards the end, it's the male that approaches the female. But of course, that's not a set rule. It really can work either way. In this case, he approached her and she went no. Quite clearly, by kicking him in the face. Yeah, yeah, no. Not a chance, buddy. But she won't resist for long. She will get up and she will, well, I mean, in theory, you never know. She's had a very long 10 days. No, not even. She's had a very long week. Okay, well, while our lioness nurses her headache, let's go and see what James thinks about all of this.
We were just talking about the fact that I find it slightly weird that we will sit and wait for hours on end for animals to procreate with each other. We're basically sitting there saying to them, get on with it and procreate. And this is something that just doesn't quite sit right with me. I mean, I've done it many times, of course, waited for lions and leopards especially. But I was, I suppose, removing myself slightly from the situation and finding it quite odd. Anyway, that's what we do. We are still trying to find Tingana. We have failed dismally to find any evidence of him so far. It is a gorgeous afternoon, however. And we will continue the search stoically, without fear. But otherwise, there really doesn't seem to be a great deal going on. It seems that the cold front has blown away. The skies are once again blue. And that probably means that the volcanic heat of the summer will return again tomorrow. Now, I have also just heard on the radio that Brentley Smith and the trainees have run into Kalamba, not very far from here, so we may decide that Tingana is a lost cause and head over there. Quite nice to see her. Maybe her father will join her. That's always a possibility. This is where she was born. No, not where she was born. This was where her first den was. Just in here, when Tristan saw her for the first time. There's a little ball of fluff and spots. I'm going to drive a little bit faster, just so that we can decide what to do. I'm just listening to the radio to find out exactly what's going on. She seems to be not moving, so that's good. We'll just do one quick round about here and see if we can't pick up something on Tingana, and then maybe we'll head down that way as the sun begins its inexorable march towards the western horizon. I might even try and find a bird somewhere here to show you. No, we're going to go across to David, who has almost certainly got himself something interesting to look at, and he's got his special moonlight camera on the car so that they can see in the dark.
Well, it has gotten a bit dark here, and if you look at me carefully, I look different than I was before, because now Manu have decided to assemble what we call IR or infrared. And infrared, what it does, it helps us to see anything or all the animals that could be busy out at night without influencing their behavior or without shining any artificial light to them. So there's an area where some 2 lions had been spotted early in the day, or when we were starting the drive in the afternoon. We tried to look for them, we never saw them, and I want to go back at the same area and find out if they could be there. Sometimes you are lucky if they decided to wake up and move around, we might be able to see them. If not, we'll be looking for something else. When it gets dark, there are those animals that we say will take over the stage from the Diano animals. And this friend of mine here who want to come, keep coming, my friend, keep coming, keep coming. They're going to ask him whether he ever saw them. Wako. Sante sana. Right. Nyasi translates the local language grass, so he says he can't see anything, but he thinks they could be somewhere in the grass. So we're going to chance and see if we might be lucky to spot them. I might use my... Okay, very quick link to Jamie right now.
Okay, just letting you listen for a moment. I'm just letting you go listen to the sounds. Well, remember how I said it was infinitely preferable to get the view of the front of the lions during this whole process? Well, I'm afraid it didn't quite work out that way. In fact, it all sort of didn't quite go according to plan at all. So there you go. That was the lions mating. And the sounds that you were hearing were a combination of her growling and that high-pitched tone actually emanates from him. That is the typical sound of a mating male lion. Oh, she just got up out of nowhere. So unfortunately, you didn't get to see the courtship, brief as it was. Basically, she got up, she walked away from him, and then she lay down again. And there we have it. Enthralling. I think James is right. I think it is actually truly strange that humans sit around waiting to watch other animals mate. It is and it isn't, I suppose. It's still fascinating behavior. And of course, you know, looking down the line in a few months' time, when there are little ones as a result. I suppose it is a bit weird to say we were there. It is a bit strange. Now that it wasn't, I didn't think it was weird until James pointed it out, and now I realise it is. And we're done for the day. Yep, you finished, buddy. He is exhausted. It is actually an exhausting process. I'm being very flippant about it, but it is. Because for this entire time, unless something walks right under their noses, they're not going to eat. They're not going to sleep very much. Well, I mean, for lions, they're not going to sleep very much. She's separated from her pride, and all she wants to do is return to them. And he really does lose a bit of body condition while they're going through the somewhat rigorous process of mating once roughly every 15 minutes on average. So it is actually, for them, it does take its toll. Leah, you want to know who goes for the room service? Well, I guess it's a matter of which one of them happens to spot something first. He is not going to take his eyes off her, so I guess it's going to have to be her role. And you often see that with mating pairs. The lioness starts to get hungry and she tries to hunt, and the male just takes that as his cue to follow her around and attempt to mate with her, which she finds very frustrating because, of course, it gives away their position. But I have noticed, typically, I know it was a fun question, but I'm giving you an actual answer. Typically, it's the lioness that tries to hunt, and the male ruins it at every turn. He is focused on one thing and one thing only. Isn't it amazing how different his eye color looks now that the sun's gone down? Speaking of which, is it time to go to the hyena then? I think it might be. I would normally stay with them until it gets dark, but I have got other things to attend to. But we'll sit for a little bit longer. That's it though. They're done for probably the next little while. I wish we'd managed to find them the day that we nearly drowned, which was yesterday morning, because I think it would have been quite the experience. They were making so much noise when I first proper fight, and he was roaring afterwards. Okay, it's been wonderful spending time with this particular pair and getting to know this male, but it's time for me to move on. And meanwhile, across in the Masai Mara, David has already managed to find a male lion. Let's go and see which one he's got.
Well, lions in Juma in South Africa to lions in the Mara Triangle, or lion in the Mara Triangle. Not very good visual. As you can see, we are already in infrared, and of course when it gets dark, the infrared is not as good as natural daylight. But if you look carefully there, there's a huge male lion. You can see a bit of movement of him, and this is one of the Quechua males. One of the Quechua males, there are always three of them, and this is one of them. I wouldn't be able to tell whether this is Fang or the other one that we call the half-tail. And then there's a third one. But this is one of the Quechua males. Oops, rolling. Beautiful eyes you got. What are you fighting with? Flies? Definitely trying to bite something, and as I said earlier, because of the rains that are going on, got lots of flies around, and most likely just enjoying playing with them. I would suggest possibly you rise and shine. There's snow rain now. Of course, there are signs of rainfall, but it could be a good idea if you could just stand and stretch yourself. When you came here earlier, there were two of them. One was in the very deep thickets, but this one was not as bad as much as he was still lying flat, and we couldn't see him very well, and we thought we'll swing by here much later on and find out whether he'll have risen up much better than before. But he got a brother who is much deeper, and we are just hoping it could be a good time for them just to come out of the thickets. Those are what we call the orange-leafed croton. Come out. This area is very huge, where these three males have always taken care of all the prides around here. We've got three main prides around here. We've got one that we call the Olololo pride. We've got about 16 members. There's another pride that we call the Marsh Breakaway, and there's another pride that we call the Mara River pride. And I think one more pride called the Mugoro pride. And we have the Owinos. As much as Owinos once in a while will be seen with these males here, but also they will be seen with other males that will be close to the Sausage pride, where we have one of the most famous males, they're called Kipuli, which we haven't seen for quite some time. Now the Quechua males, as I said earlier, are always three. This is one of the three, and the other brother is not very far from here. Time to lick himself. Remember our interactive drive. So should you have any questions or any comments, always send them through #SafariLive on Twitter. And you can always keep following us on the YouTube chat stream to enjoy this beautiful wilderness from Africa. So we do anything we can not to shine any artificial light to them. So let me just move forward by 2 meters. Well, come on, you'd like to know if just allow me to move forward. Manu, tell me when to stop. Keep going. That's good. Keep going. That's good. Well, very good. That's better view than before. So what the males will do, they'll always look at the females and find out about their fertility and find out which female would be in estrus. And once the females urinate, the males will always go and smell the urine, and they can easily pick it up. And once they are able to know that, then that's how they mate. And it's very difficult for males and females just to mate when they're not in estrus, because chances are they're going to conceive. So once they're able to know which one is in, and they'll start mating. I'm sure Jamie might have explained sometimes it might take a week to 2, and after that they may pick another female, or another male in the coalition might pick another female in the pride. Why did you go flat on us? See the wind blowing there. I would guess huge chances he would want to come out of the thickets, but sometimes you call lions kings of the jungle, kings of the savannah, more than anything else. If this could have been an antelope, it would definitely be out of these thickets, because it could not trust its senses. So many things would go wrong with such strong and powerful wind. But lions being almost on top there in terms of being in charge and not having as many concern or many predators, he doesn't look very worried staying in the wind in the thickets. I'd be more than happy if you could rise. In the background we can hear all the tree frogs now just croaking, and hearing lots of chorus of frogs. Cicadas are also very busy. Those are the animals that take over the nightlife after the Dianos are out. Some of the birds you might be seeing could be owls or thickneys. Hyenas, it's time for them to be out and maybe calling. He got his eyes open. You look very carefully. His eyes are still open, so he's definitely not having a nap. Just enjoying a bit of a rest there. The best thing I would want to hear from him is to roar. If you just roar. Shannon, my guess is this, or you're asking how old would I estimate this male to be? It's fully grown, and I would say he is very prime male. I would give him about 8 or 9, and you know, that could be about the age. The males don't live as long as the females, maybe 12, maximum 13 years or so, but we'll give him about 8 or 9 years of age. So what we want to do is try and see if we can reposition ourselves and see. Manu, you want me to turn around? Okay, towards the right. Okay, let's see whether they can take a different angle. You want me to back up a little bit? Keep coming. How is that, Manu? Good? Let's see what we're going to see. Sometimes it's always good to change an angle and see whether we'll have better visuals of this male. Just laying down that doesn't want to come out. We have another car that's shining a light, and that's why you see some flashes there. We always try the best we can to keep using infrared when it gets dark, and not to have anything artificial on these animals, because that definitely change their behavior. Do you think, Manu, he moved away? We must have lost him by the time we did repositioning. It was somewhere there, Manu. Yeah, I think that's there. Yeah, that's where he is. We got the ear now, and the other vehicle, sorry, doesn't have any infrared, and for him to show his viewers, his guests rather, the lion, they have to use that artificial light. So we apologize for that, but that's the only way they're able to see it. He's a huge boy by any standard, eh? Maybe it's much warmer where he is, and definitely that's why he not want to come out as yet. But I would guess the men always help them to keep them warm. Unlike the females would expect them to be right into the thickets there with their cubs. Catherine, great comment that this is a perfect hiding place. And hello there. I hope you can see him looking at you, Catherine. Maybe he appreciated your comments, Catherine. that yes, thank you, Catherine, I'm hiding here because I got very good cover of the orange leaf croton and some big tree that is warming up and maybe breaking the wind. Oops, did you hear that sneeze? I'm not sure. Jamie had a question the other day. Oh, I think, yeah, some viewer asked Jamie whether lions do snore. It wasn't sneezing. But yes, lion, bless you, they do snore, and more often than not, I've always picked lions sneezing than anything else. But also occasionally they cough. Now, just like us, maybe got some thing that got into, you know, they may get something like hay fever. Not sure whether they get hay fever, but he must got something in the air that he didn't like, and he had just to sneeze. Issue. I'd be very happy if you'd be able to call the brother, or maybe trying to touch base with the rest of the pride. After it rains a lot, we'll always see these cats, including, you know, lions. Oops, did you go to sleep? And leopards, and yeah, more leopards than lions. What they'll always do after it rains a lot, the rains will always wash away all the scent markings that they have done, and we'll always hear lions at night roaring more than before. And if we're out in the day and we see them, you know, just urinating, they'll keep urinating at every spot, every few meters. And the reason for that is just to remark their boundaries and just remark their territories, because the rains will always wash away all the scent markings they have done. So they become more vocal, and apparently the rains also make us see more of these cats than before the rains come, because they have to come, go all around their boundaries. Any place they had a bacon, any place they had urinated, they'll go back to the same area and mark it again. Come on, lion, we want you out. We're not very far from the camp, from where we are, and what would happen is we normally hear them at night. They might not roar at the moment, but we hear them. Anna Marie, as you go back to that lion, I'll tell you one thing for a fact. Spotlights do bother the lions a lot. You would imagine you, Anna Marie, walking and in the darkness, and a car out of the black. Not even a car, Anna Marie, just a simple flashlight, and someone shines a flashlight onto your eyes. You'll not be very happy, and you'll not be very comfortable. Same case, I would guess, would happen to the lions or to any other animal at night. They would definitely not like any spotlight on the eyes. And that's why, luckily, you know, at SafariLive, we have infrared. And Manu got one very good camera that he was trying out today. It's so effective. That lion could be anything about 20 meters away from where we are. And you can see how close he is to the camera because of the good camera and the good camera work man is doing. So infrared is so good. It helps. They might even not notice we are here. It's just time to have a nap. Very typical of lions, nothing out of the ordinary. Sleep, and more so males. And Anna Marie, you can see a bit of flashes of the other car. But luckily now, he is lying down, which is fine. But if he was standing up or just sitting and looking, those flashes of the spotlight from the other car, he would definitely not like. You see, maybe that could be one of the reasons he went down. I mean, personally, at night, that's why even when we drive and you get a car coming from the other direction, when they don't dim their light, it's always not very good. Mercy, whether I have had any news with Kipuli, I would tell you no. But I'm now very convinced, Mercy, that Kipuli might have been overthrown by those two males you've been seeing with the sausage pride. Now, what happens once in a while, you'll get a male coalition being overthrown by another coalition. But once that happens, you'll get the other coalition after a year or two coming back and taking over. So I'll tell you for a fact, Mercy, at the moment, Kipuli has gone under, very quiet, and those two males from the Ondonyo Pike coalition, as we call them, are the ones that are in charge in that territory. And the three cubs, I'm sure, Mercy, you have been following us, the three cubs in that pride have been fathered by either of those two males, if not both. I'm just talking about the sausage tree pride. There are 5 of them, and we've got 2 females that we think are pregnant and expecting cubs anytime. The lead female in the sausage pride is called the kinktail, and we think she could be dropping her cubs at the beginning of the year or anytime in the next 2 weeks. There's another female there that we also think is pregnant. We haven't seen it there for the last 1 week, and most likely she has gone to look for a den, and maybe she has already popped up her cubs. So Kipuli, wherever you are, there's just another male not very far from here, and that forms another coalition. It's called the Scarface, that we haven't seen or heard of for quite some time. Personally, I haven't seen it, but we have seen 3 of his brothers like every 4 days, and Scarface have also been missing in action. And Manu the other day was thinking, or was telling me, we think Kipuli might have gone back to Serengeti, maybe following the wildebeest, the fact that he knows his territory has been taken over by those 2 boys. The last we saw of Kipuli was a very big fight between him and some other nomadic 2 males that came, and he dealt with them accordingly, and they both took off. Not sure I have seen Kipuli since then. Manu, have you? Yeah, that was what, 2 months ago? Yeah, it was about 2 months ago that we saw Kipuli fighting 2 nomadic males. He fought one in the morning, he fought another one in the afternoon, and then he took over his girls. And the female that was there is called Butternut, that comes from another pride that we call the Owino pride, that has normally 5 lions, 4 females and 1 youngster boy. And we think Butternut could be pregnant. And the Owino pride way back used to be together with the sausage, and they broke. Sometimes when the pride gets very big, you'll see them splitting, maybe because of sources of food. Well, we may have to move now because this gentleman doesn't seem to be wanting to give us any action. And I think we may have to move and maybe look for something else on our way out. Why don't you allow me? It might be a bit bumpy as we move, Manu. I'm going to engage my 4-wheel drive because we're in a little ditch here. Okay, and as I'm doing that, trying to maneuver here, we'll take you back to Jamie in South Africa.
Good luck, Dave. I know that feeling very, very, very well in the Mara. So we'll all be holding thumbs that Dave comes out of the ditch. I have no doubt that he will. But every now and again one finds oneself in a ditch unexpectedly. Seb, do you know once in the Mara I got run off the road entirely? Really? I was driving down the main road. It rained a lot, so the sides were really, and they're steep, they were really wet and slippery. And this guy just didn't slow down so that we could sort of scrape past each other in first gear. And I just went stuck on the side. I was so angry. Oh, he was fine. He was fine. He drove straight past. I was so furious. Oh, I was cross that day. I can't even remember who pulled me out now. Someone pulled me out. I think that was the one day that I sent a message to the hyena researchers saying, help! Oh, by the way, the den's not active. Are we surprised? No. The den is active in the sense that the cubs are still there. Could see them at the entrance to the tunnel. And Pretty's cub made a brief sojourn out to come see what we were doing, at which point obviously we left, so that it doesn't come, that his curiosity doesn't prompt it out of the den into the dangerous wide world without mom to keep watch. Which is why we avoid being at the den without the mothers in the first place, because they're so comfortable with us that they come out to have a look, and that is not something that we want to encourage without a mother around, or an adult, any adult. I'm not too concerned whether it's a mother or one of the adult males or females, as long as they're not coming out because we're there and they're on their own. So now what? Do a circle and come back again. don't understand what I've done wrong in my life. There were lion tracks here, but just see if I can see them again. Somebody's been running on Philemon's cut line. I assume our fitness enthusiasts in camp came running past. There's Tingana's tracks from this morning. Oh, it's Tingana's tracks. I'm talking nonsense. It's Tingana's tracks that I'm looking at. This is where he came from. Hey Seb, weren't you flying over this road this morning?
I was, yeah, we did.
He did a mischief, yeah. No, those are lions. They are lions. There's lion and leopard. He walked along here. And then this is probably the mating pair over here. In between the human footprint. There we go. That is definitely a lion track with a human footprint for scale. You can actually see that that footprint is running just by the depth of the toe print. Possibly running slightly faster when they saw what was next to them. No, I'm joking, of course. That was James's shoe. That was definitely that looks like James's shoe. We know each other's tracks quite well, which is weird, but we do. I'm pretty sure that was James. I know, it's ridiculous. We live in a camp with very sandy soil, and we know which person is walking past based on the sound of their footsteps. How ridiculous is that? James's strides were long here. He was bouncing along. That was before the great uphill. Yes, I think there's a possibility he was trying to outpace Gendre. I can't see Gendre. Oh, there's Gendre's tracks. Anyway, moving on to wildlife-related matters. So that's the mating pair, by the way. Those lion tracks. That's why I'm not leaping about with excitement at having seen them. They came up from this side. Yeah, just double check that it's them and not the rest of the Nkuhuma pride that we somehow missed. And Trish wants to know, running for what? My question exactly, Trish. That's exactly how I feel about running. Although apparently they're running for the health benefits. You know, you can make of that what you will. I'm not 100% convinced by that story. Running for what indeed? No, they're running for exercise. It really does look like more than 2 lions. It really does. Oh man, Seb, I wonder if those Nkuhumas weren't somewhere around power lines or something with all those vultures. This is more than 1. This is more than 2 lions, I mean. Can you just check further along? There's also... that's so hard to show you them now. You can sort of see. They're not very clear. But they're on top of the vehicle tracks. If there was a vehicle that drove around this morning, they're all on this side here. Very hard to see now in this light. Have we completely missed a pride of lions on Djuma? I've got a funny, sneaky feeling we have. Now, where did I go this morning? They've walked along Philemon's cut line. Let's just go check Rebecca's. I don't think anybody's driven Rebecca's road today. Let's just do a quick loop before I come back to the hyena den. You never know. That's not the mating pair. There was a male with them, but it's not just the mating pair. Whoopsies. Got slightly over-enthusiastic about my reversing there. And to have a word with the exercisers about lion tracks. I'm going to take a chance and just go and check around Rebecca's Road. Maybe we get lucky, maybe we don't. Who knows? Only time will tell. Let's go across to Dave in the Mara to see what he thinks about running for exercise.
Well, good luck, Jamie. You might be lucky. And it have slowed down for me a bit as we left that lion. And now we won't look for not chameleons because they don't remember the last day. So, and before I think of running for exercise, let's see what they can see that scrub here there, Manu, in the middle of the road. I'm sure Manu will see how they can spot that scrub here. Very good. In Juma, it's very easy to see scrub hairs right in the middle of the road. They normally come out at night to feed, and two senses that help them a lot at night is their eyes, their huge eyes, big ears, as you can see that they got, because they need to hear very well, see very well at night. And what they could be doing, they could be digging some tubers there or some roots from the grass, being almost, I would say, strict vegetarians, but they also eat grass. In general, much bigger in size than rabbits. And then we have always made jokes here in Africa that the scrub hares are much intelligent than the rabbits. I don't know what man you think. Do you agree? Who is clever, rabbits or hares? Manu says he's going to debate. You think the hare? Yeah, Manu says they always suicide on the road, because what happens, you'll see them there and you'll give them time either to cross the road or they just decide to stay on one side. When you get close to them is when you see them jumping right in the middle of the road. So when it cools off at night, that's when they'll come out. But one thing I'm sure Manu will agree with me, of all the mothers of animals of this size, I think the scrub hares are the most careless mothers. Not once you have seen them being about 5-10 meters apart from their young ones, which is not very good, especially at night. We get so many animals that would prey on them, including wild dogs, jackals, snakes. In my village we used to keep rabbits. Hello there. Very unusual to see them in twos unless you see a mother or female with her young ones, and could be out the whole night feeding, and then it will be facing out early in the morning when the daylight comes. So either there's something she likes there, she is stuck in that place for quite some time and still either digging or gnawing it. They said either tubers, sometimes small little seeds, grass, the root. Joy, you're asking whether we got spring hares in the Mara. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. They tend to be a bit, what do I say, a bit shy, but Joy, you'll never miss a spring hare because the way they move, especially here in the Mara, you'll pick them very easily. They leap just like the kangaroos. I'm sure, Joy, you know the kangaroos. Yes, but just once we got spring hares in the Mara. Only rather difficult to spot them, but we have them. And one of the best things I love about the spring hares is when they move or when they spring from the ground, leaping in the air. And just like the scrub hares, they'll be feeding more or less on the same. As much as the spring hares, interestingly, are more closely related to the squirrels than the actual hares. Their closest relatives are squirrels. Hello, little Scratch. Catherine, do hares reproduce as quickly as rabbits? I would say, to me, the scrub hares reproduce much faster than rabbits. That's from what I've found out. I don't remember the last time I saw small little babies from rabbits, but I think scrub hares have a much quicker reproduction than the rabbits. scrub hares being a little bigger in size than rabbits. And you'll always see scrub hares staying more on land, and rabbits tend to dig burrows or small little dens for themselves or small holes. Did you hear me? Do you think I'm too loud? Now, she will not want to take any chances, so she might pause and swing. See how she's moving her ears, picking any slight sound. But let me try and remember how many babies would be in a litter, but I would guess 2 to 4 is the average. 2 to 4, that's what you'd see in a litter of a scrub hare, whereas rabbits would be a little less than that. And apparently, Bob, when they're born, the babies or the youngsters of the scrub hares, they got fur on their bodies and they're born with their eyes open. Rabbits, when the babies are born, they're bare, they have no fur, and actually they're always born blind. So some of the few differences between scrub hares and rabbits. But again, as I said, I would say rabbits are better mothers than scrub hares. Scrub hares being a little bit careless. Rabbits in their holes or in the dens, they'll tend to take care of their young ones, leverets as sometimes we call them, much more better than the scrub hares. You see a scrub hare there, and the baby would be nothing, and then she just jumps and leaves the baby or the babies and move away from them for quite some time. And that's when they become very vulnerable to even mungus. Mungus, especially the white-tailed mungus, I've seen them hunting or eating baby scrub hares. So for quite some time she must have had something that she's not sure what it was, and she just wants to be sure that she is safe before she can continue feeding. So she moves the ears like a radar or like some kind of dish, and that way she's able to pick the slightest sound from whatever direction it could be coming from. And I think, apart from the snakes or some other big birds I'm talking about that go for scrub hares, James might be having something that also would like to eat or try a scrub hare.
Right, here we are with Tingana, the male leopard, and I have not seen him this far south for many, many months. He's sitting here on Chitwa, where he was once, of course, emaciated, injured, and to many of us, at the end of the Leopard Road. Well, it would seem that he is now back to his old ways. We're sitting at Chitwa, quite near to the lodge, quite near to the dam. And like I say, I haven't seen him here for a long time. There, you know what? That's not actually true. I have seen him here. He took that wild. He took the bushbuck from the 2 wild dogs, which was about, that must have been about 2 months ago now. But he wasn't calling then. He wasn't down here marking his territory. And he seemed to be avoiding this area. Perhaps because of Umfogazi, I'm not sure. Perhaps another male. Anyway, he's been very active since we've been here. We've been here about half an hour. We had to record some non-live stuff, so that's why you weren't here with us for that half hour. But it seems that there's something around here that's getting up his nose, and that's why he's calling. Just very interesting seeing how he's expanding his domain back to what it was. Catherine, you say you love Tingana. He's a champion. Well, yes, he is. We had a question, I think, was it this morning or yesterday? No, it was yesterday, where somebody said, I don't forget exactly who we were talking about. We were talking about whether or not Hosana, that's right, is a successful hunter or not. And somebody came up with the comment, and I forget who it was naturally, that if he is alive, then he by default must be a successful hunter. And I very much think that Tingana, the same thing could be said of him. If he is a territorial male leopard, he is by default a champion, because many have fallen long before they got anywhere near the stage that Tingana's at here. This is the creme de la creme, if you like, of leopard life. You don't get to his age in his position without being something very special. And we forget that, of course, every time we see male leopards, because we do see quite a lot of them. And we forget what it takes, how few of them make it to this stage. He, of course, is utterly inspired by my speech, as you can see. So inspired that he's fallen asleep. James, that's a good question, and I think it's a real possibility. You say, will Hosana venture back down here onto Chitwa now that Tingana's back and marking this area? Yes, I think it's a real possibility. I suspect Hosana was avoiding the area. Well, there are two reasons. There are two reasons that Hosana was avoiding this area. One is that Tingana wasn't down here, and I'm pretty sure there was another male marking and making the place smell unfamiliar and dangerous. The other reason, of course, is that, well, they've built a fairly enormous construction where he and Hosana used to hang out. It's a very beautiful home, but it's just behind the dam wall where the two of them used to hang out. So that's the reason that, those are the two reasons that they don't hang out there anymore. Philip, I think about a tenth, 1 in 10 young males probably get to this stage, maybe 2 in 10. It depends where you are, and I'm not sure any truly accurate statistics exist of how many make it to adulthood and to territorial adulthood, and then, of course, to this kind of age. But I'm going to say 1 in 10. He's definitely very, very alert. Can't see what he's looking at. You might be able to hear the drongos shouting in the background. They're shouting at a Wahlberg's eagle. Yeah, all those birds you can hear are shouting at a Wahlberg's eagle who has made the injudicious decision to sit out in the open near some drongos. No, you won't see him. There he goes. Oh. He's flown into a tree not far from here. I don't think we can see him though. You can just hear them there. Look at that. Just listening to the radio. Just hang on a second. One moment, please. Sorry, what animal's mobile to Chitwa, Marty? Oh. Well, there's your answer. Thanks very much. There's your answer to whether or not Hosana is going to make his way back onto Chitwa. He is. He is on his Chitwa as we speak. He's on his way to Chitwa Dam. So, isn't that interesting? He's followed his father down here. I think that's really quite phenomenal. And where was he yesterday? I mean, he was up near Ingwe Alley. It wasn't far from where Tingana was found this morning. And now they are over here. Tingana walked a long way today, about 8 to 10 kilometers, 5 or 6 miles. We can't go to and see Hosanna, I'm afraid, because there are too many people with him. Tom, I don't see why not. I mean, there's no real reason why Hosanna wouldn't take the territory from Tingana if the timing was correct. If Hosanna starts to become territorial, starts to mark and call while his father is still in this state, then he's going to find himself chased away. If, however, we get 2 years down the line and Hosanna either hasn't for some reason started showing territorial tendencies, or has just remained here, and Tingana's strength starts to ebb and wane, then it's entirely possible that Hosanna would take this territory. It'd be quite fun if that happened. Now, I can't possibly begin to say whether or not what I've said will or won't come true. I mean, Tingana could find himself in serious peril, perhaps from lions or something like that, in the next few days. And then it will all be over. But he certainly doesn't look like a cat that's about to give up or that is about to lose any of his territory or go into retirement. It's fascinating that Hosanna's come here. I really find that amazing. All right, well, we've got a little bit of time left in the show. We'll wait and see if Hosanna doesn't actually pitch up at Dad. He's certainly calling straight towards Hosanna, and you can go back and see what Jamie's up to.
I'm heading back towards the hyena den. Brent's just called me. He said that Corky's there. She is looking a little nervous, says Brent, although I think that Corky's always a little bit nervous now around the den. She never quite regained her full confidence after the Evoker male. But Brent's called me and it's too dark for me to accomplish what I wanted to do. But nevertheless, it means that we can go and say hello to Corky and catch up with the hyenas, which is just as good in my book. The lion tracks don't come out here, well, unless they've been driven over all day, which means they must either be in here or they must be somewhere in this drainage. I couldn't find them on Rebecca's Road. Interesting. We all missed the fact that there's an entire pride of lions somewhere around here. We gave it our best shot though. We can't be everywhere. Can't keep up with everything. I bet they're in here. I think they crossed on Weaver's Nest. It's quite hard. Might not have seen them. Okay, back into the den. I reckon I could drive this entire road with my eyes closed. I'm not going to because that would be very silly with hyena cubs wandering about. But I reckon the number of times that I've done it in the last few days, I think I could. Oh, we're about to meet Brent coming out the other way. Thank you very much.
Should be enough line.
I don't know.
Where's the line?
Okay, I'm stuck and I'm not. Okay, bye guys. There should be enough light. I don't think so. Seb? No, I don't think so. I appreciate. I'd have to use. Yeah. No, I don't think it's gonna work. It was a nice thought. Thank you, Brenty. But it's not gonna work. It's fine. We'll just try again tomorrow. I mean, if I have to come and visit the hyena den, I will. No. That would have been tragic. Lou's terribly concerned that they've left again, but they haven't. They're just on the other side. That would have been, at that point, then I would have given up. I would have just quietly wept, because then it's clear that it is me that they are avoiding. Hi, little ones. Where is your mommy? I've not seen Pretty in ages. This corpse. Have you got a second female?
No, sorry.
Oh, okay, cool. No worries. Hi, Corky. Okay. Can I squeeze up to you, Corks? There we go. Alright, we're going to switch into infrared. Dun dun dun. It's magic. Isn't it? Here we go. Hi. A little mischief. This is the smaller, that's the bigger, sorry. That's the larger of Pretty's two cubs. This little curious bundle is the smaller one. And then, oh, it's that time of day. Oh, excitement. Been stuck inside all day. Now it's time to come out and play. I was hearing this funny sound and I couldn't work out what it was. It's Corky's cub suckling. It's drinking so fast, it's hidden behind Mum. It's drinking so fast, all I can hear is... Here we go. Are you thirsty? Hungry little thing. Awesome. Well, I'm not going to complain because look at this. Oh, did you have a wobble? Oh, so very scary. Now listen, I know that you're perfectly relaxed around us because I've seen you come right under the car. This little one's a bit more anxious. It's definitely the less bold of the two, I feel, from just personal observation, even though it is bigger than its sibling. Whenever a head pops out, it's always that little one. Oof, there's obviously something on there that smells very nice. Presumably the paste from one of the other adults. Oh, so cute. They've got so big. It's ridiculous. I have really missed this. This is what we've been waiting for. Oh, is Corky that scary? That was Miller. Oh, he's speeding around. Backwards, forwards. Very dramatic. All the smells to smell. Quick. Go and investigate over there. Yep, no, we're going back the other way. Oh, no. Oh, too scared to go to Corky on its own. Come on, you've got to learn. You've got to learn to play respects. Come on, you've got to do it. She's your boss. You gots to. No? Not having it. Oh, now we've got the older one the bigger one. Looked like it was going to come and investigate. Oh, we've got a bone. Oh, there could be scraps over this. Haha, excuse the pun. Strawhead, absolutely. Hosana's future nemesis, absolutely. Couldn't have said it fairer. That is exactly what they are. They're also the future of a very small hyena clan. And a very big portion of its hopes in terms of future. Well, I'm glad we got to experience this, but unfortunately somehow the last little bit of the sunset safari has vanished at the speed of light, faster even than Pretty's little cub could dash backwards and forwards. I'll be here tomorrow morning, first thing, to see whether they're out and about and if Pretty makes an appearance. But for now, it's time for us to say goodbye to all of you. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for your interaction, your questions and your comments. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you soon.